through 5. You will find that on page 948. Galatians chapter 5, verses 1 through 5. For freedom Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore. Do not submit again to a yoke of slavery. Listen, I, Paul, am telling you that if you let yourself be circumcised, Christ will be of no benefit to you. Once again, I testify that he who is obliged to obey. Once again, I testify to every man who lets himself be circumcised that he is obliged to obey the entire law. You who want to be justified by the law have cut yourselves off from Christ. You have fallen away from grace. For through the Spirit, by faith, we eagerly wait for the hope of righteousness. Let us pause for a word of prayer. Father, we do thank you for your word. It is a strong word this morning, but it is a word we need to hear because it deals with a struggle that we have. So, Father, we would ask that as your word is opened here, as we talk about your word, that your Spirit would guide us. Open this to us that we may understand it, and not simply that we may know, but that it may change us from the inside out. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Last week we talked about the struggle between faith and works. We understand that we are saved through faith, but somehow work seems to worm its way into our lives, messing things up. And when that happens, failure tends to drag us to the point where we begin to wonder and maybe even question our very salvation. And I think one of the reasons that work seems to worm its way into our lives is because of all the scripture texts that call us to be doing. We are supposed to live as Christ has called us to live. We're supposed to love others, including those who are enemies. We're supposed to reflect Christ at all times. We're supposed to watch what we say, watch what we do, watch what we think, watch who we hang out with, watch what we listen to, watch what we see, and watch how we react to others. We're supposed to follow all the commandments. And we really work at doing these things. We strive to do our best to carry these things out. And when we try and take these things on and do everything right, we end up failing time and time again. It seems the harder we try, the more we seem to fail. And that, along with Satan's prodding, will lead us to begin to question our salvation. So we looked last week at the fact that God is far more involved in our lives than we tend to think. God is the one who first reached down to us. God is the one who took our hand when we reached up to him. God is the one who has been doing the work in us since he first took our hand. And God is the one who will finish the work that he began in us. We are far too precious to God for God to just let us flounder on our own. He has been involved in our lives since we first gave him permission. So we can relax knowing that we are in God's hand, and there's no way that he's going to allow us to slip through his hands. But, with that said, we need to be careful here. It is just as easy for us to go to the other end of this as well. It's easy for us to take on the attitude that we can just go ahead and live our lives any way we want to without worries because God's going to take care of everything. And we know, I know some people that have this attitude. They live their lives no different than the rest of the world because they believe that grace has got them covered. So they can go ahead and do whatever they want because God's grace will cover them. Well, we also know that Paul has dealt with this issue already. Romans 6, 1 through 4, Paul says this, what shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? Remember his answer to that? Certainly not. How shall we who died to sin live any longer in it? Or do you not know that as many of us as were baptized into Christ Jesus were baptized into his death? Therefore we were buried with him through baptism into death, that just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glory of the Father, even though we should walk in newness of life. That means, no, you cannot live your lives as you used to before Christ. You died to that old life. It's time to live as the children of God you now are. So, basically, we struggle with failure in trying to do what is right, but we're also born not to stop the struggle either. So how do we look at this? How can we keep from getting to the point of throwing in the towel because we just cannot seem to be good enough, and yet keep trying to get it right all the while we feel like a failure and that God has given up on us? Let me rephrase this. How can we rest in the grace of God while at the same time keeping up the fight against sin in our lives? Well, I think our text for today can help us out here. And really, it has a lot to do with how we view our struggles. Paul is dealing with a situation in the church of Galatia. It seems the church was struggling over the command of circumcision. Paul is attempting to help them to understand that what they're really struggling with is faith versus works. Some in the church were trying to push the law on them by telling them that they needed to follow the law as well as faith. And circumcision was just the hot topic at the time that they were wrestling with. Paul tells them that if they were going to give in and follow the command of circumcision, then they were under the obligation to keep the whole law. And that would take them out of the realm of grace and put them back under the yoke of bondage to the whole law. And they would find themselves under the condemnation of the whole law as well. Faith had set them free from all of this, and they needed to be careful not to submit themselves once again to what they had been set free from. If you read this text, you can see Paul is more than just a little frustrated here. But it is within this section that Paul gives us a little nugget that can help us in our struggles as well. It's easy to just kind of gloss over this nugget as we're reading, but listen to what he says in verse 6. For in Christ Jesus neither circumcision nor uncircumcision avails anything, but faith working through love. Faith working through love. What's he talking about here? Well, let me state it this way. Why am I doing what I do? As a believer, as a person sealed in Christ, as a person covered by the grace of God, why do I do what I do? Do I do the things I do to make God pleased with me? Am I trying to be good enough to meet God's expectations of me? Am I trying to be good enough to meet my own expectations of what I think a Christian should be? Or is there something more? Let me ask this in a little different way. Why do you put your best into the classes, sports, or any of the other activities that you're involved in school? Why do you put your best effort into your work in your workplace? Why do you put 100% into your conversations, interactions with other people in everyday life? Are you doing it to prove something to yourself? Are you doing it to prove something to God? Are you doing it to prove that you can do this on your own? Or is there something more? Paul, in using this phrase, faith working through love, is saying, yeah, there's something more. If you jump down a little, you'll find another verse where Paul adds to this thought a bit. Verse 13 says, for you, brethren, have been called to liberty. Only do not use liberty as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. And let me add one more verse to this from 1 John chapter 5. In verse 3 he says this, for this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments. Listen to what he says next. And his commandments are not burdensome. The common word found in all four of these verses is the word love. And the common focus of these four verses is our love for God. Now, if you're paying attention and you just heard what I said, you're probably going to say, well, wait a minute, Pastor. Some of these verses are speaking of our love for one another. Busted. Well, you're you're exactly right. But let me clarify something here. You cannot, and hear this out, you cannot have an appropriate love for others until you have an appropriate love for God. Our ability to be able to love others in the right way is directly connected to our love for God. Now, understand, I had to use appropriate love and right love because in our society today, the word love has gotten all messed up. There is a difference. That's why I use this. You cannot have an appropriate love for others until you have an appropriate love for God. Now, it may seem that we've kind of gotten off on a rabbit trail here, but hang in there. What love of God are we speaking of here? The love we're talking about here is a love for God that grows out of our understanding of what God has done for us. It's basically the growth of a love relationship with God our Father. It is a love relationship with God our Father. I love God not because He has commanded me to love Him, but because of the love that He has first shown me. It still blows me away at the distance that He was willing to go for me. You need to understand, keep this in mind. Christ did not have to go to that cross. He did nothing wrong. I deserve that cross. I'm the one that told God to get lost because I wanted to do my own thing, my own way. I am the one who walked away from God and told Him to get lost. Yet He came after me. He willingly went to the cross to pay for my sins. He willingly endured the beatings and the mockings and the torture that should have been mine to bear. And then He came after me. He extended His hand and He called out to me. And no matter how many times I slapped His hand away from me, He continued to hold out His hand to me and call out to me. I love God because He did all this for me. And this love that I have for God is shown in what I do. It is shown in every part of my life. From the sports or the band or the choir or anything else that I do in school to my work ethic in the workplace. And not only that, but my love for God is shown in how I see and how I treat others around me. My love for God directs my everyday interactions with those who are around me. Now, you're probably thinking I've gotten way off track. Hang in there. What does this have to do with my desire to do right, but my constant failures and feelings that God could not possibly love me because of my failures? It's connected to the question, why do I do what I do? Why do I strive to do what God calls me to do? Why do I strive to do these things even though I fail many, many times? Is it to make God love me? No. Look what He's done for you. He cannot love you any more than He already does. Is it to be good enough? No. Christ paid the price on the cross to make you good enough. In fact, because of the cross, God now sees you as perfect in Christ. Is it to make me acceptable to God? No. Christ has already made you acceptable to God. The reason you do what you do is because of love. If you truly love someone, you're going to want to do the things that they ask you to do. Not because you have to, but because you want to. If Becky asked me to pick her up after work one day because it's cold and raining, I will pick her up after work if I possibly can. Not because I have to pick her up, but because I want to pick her up. Love draws me to do these things for her. That's how our relationship with our Father grows. As our understanding of all that God the Father has done for us grows, so will our love for the Father. As our love for the Father grows, so will our desire to do what He calls us to do. Not because we have to, but because we want to. Love pulls us out of the bondage and frees us to live life to the fullest. Take a look at the Ten Commandments in light of God's intense love for us. If you do that, what you're going to find is that instead of a list of do's and don'ts, we have a list of things that God desires for us to follow to be able to live our lives to the fullest. Instead of fun killers, these commandments have become ways to keep from making mistakes that will hinder or even wreck our ability to live life to the fullest. These commandments were not given as a way to control us or to keep us under God's thumb, as we like to think, but they were given out of love for us. That's why John says in 1 John that his commands are not burdensome. The only way these commands can become not burdensome is if we see them in the right way. If we see them as God's love for us, extending out for us, trying to keep us from making mistakes that will destroy us, so that we can live life to the fullest. So with this in mind, we now desire to follow these commandments because they show us the heart of God and his love for us. And we desire to follow these not because we have to, but because we want to, out of our love for God. So, with that in mind, our failures need to be looked at in a different light. Thomas Edison has a good quote about failure. He says, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's a good way to look at it. Winston Churchill has a quote about failure that's a little more humorous, I think, anyway. He says, Success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm." That's good. Listen, because we are covered by the grace of God, failure does not disqualify us at all. In fact, failure is what pushes us to become even more as we strive to be all that God has called us to be. Failure is a bump in the road, not a mountain. Failure is our stumbling as we walk along with God. With our hand in his, when we stumble, his hand's got us. He helps us to regain our footing, not so that we can beat ourselves up for being nothing but failures, but rather so we can continue on the path that God has set before us. That's what it means to be covered by the grace of God. When we stumble, God gets us back on our feet again and sets us on our way. You see, we tend to see failure out of fear. God desires that we do what we do out of love. Listen again to verse 6. "For in Christ Jesus neither circumcision nor uncircumcision avails anything, but faith working through love." Faith is shown through love. Love for the Father, love for his commands, and love for each other. Instead of fear, it's time to start allowing love, God's love, to compel us to do what we do. Why do you do what you do? I want to encourage you to take a little time this week and think about this. What is the reason that I do the things I do? Is it out of fear? Is it because I feel I have to? Or is it out of love? Is it because I want to? Because of all that he's already done for me? The answer to that will either free you or keep you in bondage. Amen? Amen. Let me pray. Father, we do, again, thank you for your word. And it's a good word for us to hear because we need to be reminded. It's so easy for us to fall back into the legalistic way of thinking that I have to do these things. I have to. You've commanded me to do this, and I have to do it. Otherwise, you're not going to be happy with me, and I'm going to be disqualified. And Father, help us to understand love. And may that love, the love of what you've done for us, be the driving force of why we do what we do. we strive to do that. In Christ's name we pray.